And hello, everyone. Welcome to show number 101. Yes, we are in the triple digits of This Week in Hospitality Digital Marketing, July 14th, 2017. I am one of your hosts, hopefully one of a few, because we're going to have many joining us, Lauren Gray. We've been doing this for nearly 2 years every week. We have not missed a week. We have a great attendance and audience of a little over 1,600 people that we multicast on Facebook Live, Periscope, which is Twitter, and a little bit of Instagram pre-Green Room. We do that live as well, and plus also on YouTube. So with that, and we have early in the gate, Mr. Tim Peter from Tim Peter and Associates.
Mr. Lauren Gray from This Week in Hospitality Digital Marketing.
Show number 101, triple digits. Triple digits,
baby.
But you're way ahead of us on the podcast game. I mean, I've been doing podcasts probably longer, but less frequent than you. And you have you're up 170.
No, 198.
That's right. You're hitting two. You're hitting the big two.
Almost 200 episodes coming up next week. I've been out the last couple of weeks because of travel, and I have a small setup for doing podcasting while I'm on the road. But I'm in the process of transitioning to traveling only with my iPad. I just got the iPad Pro, and I haven't figured out how to actually do the podcast on the iPad yet.
Okay.
There's a weird file format thing. GarageBand. So I use Logic on the Mac for my podcast.
Right.
And GarageBand on the iPad only outputs as an M4A.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Like MP3, which is what all the other 190 plus shows have been in. So I hate to switch. So I haven't quite figured out, is there a way around that?
Oh, there's an app. There's an app for converting on for the iPad Pro. Actually, it's for iPads as well. It'll convert your file format for you.
Cool. What's the app?
Mass converter. Oh, crap. I'll look for it and I'll text it over to you later because I have the same problem because it does do this. Hey, Mr. Stewart.
Hello, Stuart.
Mr. Stuart Butler from Fuel Travel.
Stuart, it's a little dark today. Just out of curiosity, what's the sports team of choice today? Is that
it is usually a Manchester United shirt of different variety of colors, so that's what we're wearing today.
So this is Man U, but just an alternate jersey, is what
that's exactly right. Yeah, home shirt is red. This was last year's third shirt. So
got it.
Yeah.
Marketing at its finest, variations in the flavors of brand colors. I mean, I think I own every Buccaneers variation color there is on some shirt or T-shirt.
Right, and they
got to show you
every year too. So you got to buy all
your team.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, I will tell you a version of that I didn't like that I saw this year was for the 4th of July and for Memorial Day. All the teams wore socks. All the baseball teams wore socks that were basically flags, essentially. So they were like blue stars on one leg and red and white stripes on the other leg.
Yeah.
A, it was really ugly. And B, if you could only see the leg with the red and white stripes, it looked like the Wicked Witch who was trapped under the house and I thought, if these guys can't make it look good, ain't nobody
trying to buy some of those on Amazon.
Yeah.
Sure.
No, unfortunately, but it was actually fun to watch. The home run stuff was incredible to watch. That was amazing.
Oh, sure. Well, very cool. Well,
hey, everyone's joining us.
St.Onge.
See, and I was just ready to compliment that the two of you being on meant that you could hide my clutter of moving behind me, but no, now that there's four of us, it goes wide angle again. Hey, Mr. Ed, how are you, sir?
Hey, gang, how's it going?
Yeah.
By the way, Stuart, we do have to talk about one thing. I've never seen this before. Dude, you got a TIE fighter in the background.
Yeah, he does.
That's awesome.
There's an X-Wing, a TIE fighter, and a
Y-Wing?
Star Destroyer, and a Millennium Falcon back there, and a test. So.
Now, is the TIE fighter the old style TIE fighter?
It's original. It's Lego, but it's the original.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Okay. Awesome. Well, gentlemen, thank you so very much for making the 101. Although we were just complimenting Tim on his podcasting, clicking up to almost 200 in the next couple of weeks. So.
It's rapidly becoming maybe one of my favorite top 5 podcasts that I listen to. It's just, I love the format. I love how succinct it is, but gets deep really quickly. So it's definitely worth checking out.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, you're saying it's the polar opposite of this show's format.
There's a dichotomy in our world.
Well, I appreciate that. That's very nice of you.
Yeah, well, not to be any slacker on the Fuel Travel podcast, which also is the antithesis of this show.
Well, we share similar links sometimes. We tend to ramble and go off on tangents, but
I love your podcast. You guys do what I wish my podcast was, which is a group of people sitting around chatting.
Yeah.
In my specific case, because I do mine when I'm traveling a lot, or because I do it when I'm here in the office and I work out of my house. I have nobody to talk to, so I have no friends, basically, is what it boils down to.
Well, I pay these people, so they have to.
I'm sorry, I just came on. If we change the theme, is this just kind of like a venting of...
This is therapy? No, the theme is the same. It's still therapy. It's still therapy for all of us. Yeah, Mr. Robert Cole from Rock Cheetah. Hello, how are you?
Tim has friends. I've seen him speak to people like at conferences and stuff. Oh wait, he's a paid speaker. Oh, never mind.
That's exactly right.
So I just want to ask a question. In all the other parts of the world, is having color on your walls like a bad thing? Because you guys all have like the most boring walls.
Oh, come on! I have decor. I have boxes.
I use a green screen behind me. That's why. So.
I've got a picture of Jennifer Aniston that side of the camera. You can't see.
And you can't see. You can't see. We've got my house is kind of odd. It's got this interesting like chair rail / shelf on many of the walls. So there's a window right here to my right.
Oh, nice.
And below that, there's like this chair rail / shelf. And below that, it is painted a very lovely deep blue. So the white is to contrast the deep blue.
Okay. Nice.
Well, and this is just to give you an update of my personal life, as this is not an overshare problem. We've found
and he freezes.
Yes, he did.
Yep, he froze.
For dramatic effect.
Yeah.
All right.
What's going on in his personal life?
Oh, so close.
God, I hope it's not like
so
really
close.
bad news, because like when he comes back on and we're all like, yeah, hey, thanks for sharing, Lauren.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. While Lauren's frozen, how about we get to the first topic?
What might...
Hey.
Wow, that was weird.
That was weird.
That was weird.
All right, but we are still live.
Yeah, we're still live. So let's get on the topics.
Yeah, let's get on the topics.
Where would you guys like to start?
Well, how about our email thread from this week? There was an email thread that went around earlier this week among the show hosts. Oh, yeah, Lauren's back.
You started
it. Weird. That was weird. I'm going to make one of you all an admin too, so just in case I get lost again.
Fantastic.
I'll make you all admin.
Holly, you can't watch and not participate. Get on the show.
Yeah.
That's all right, Holly. So we were having a chat in email this week about blockchain and how, according to HFTP, that's going to be the thing that kills the OTAs and
Airbnb.
And Airbnb. Yeah.
Right.
And there was some consensus among the panelists in those emails that was what's the right word for this? Oh, right.
Fake news.
Fake news.
Politics is what we call it.
So you guys are much smarter about the technology than I am. So by all means.
Well, first, I just want to say, like, I wanted to be very cautious in my questioning of it publicly, just because who knows? Like, you never know, right? Maybe he knows something none of us do.
Yeah, sure.
So, so I put a very, like, hey, I'm missing the point here. And my favorite thing that happened was Stuart, like, I completely agree with Ed. This is a complete garbage premise.
That's a little less. He's very good at reading subtext. Yes.
I'm not politically correct, I guess.
But here's the thing, and I actually later commented again, because someone actually put forth an argument of, well, it could be said that the trust portion of blockchain is what he's talking about. And, and okay, great. So if we get rid of all reality and narrow it down to, is there any possibility that blockchain could disrupt the OTAs and Airbnb, which, by the way, the Airbnb thing is actually what makes it even more ridiculous.
That's right.
Because hotels adopting blockchain how does that even touch Airbnb, who doesn't work with hotels?
Right.
But let's
you could argue that blockchain helps Airbnb disrupt hotels perhaps even more.
Oh, right. It helps anybody who potentially disrupt more.
Well, I think we need to back up a little bit. There's probably a lot of people listening that don't really fundamentally understand what blockchain is and what the article kind of spelled out.
So who wants to take it, but you got to keep it high level. And that's what makes it hard, because it's not a simple...
No, it's not. I'll try to get it as concise as possible, which is so hard for
like Robert Cole concise.
Robert Cole.
Right. I said I was going to do the I'm out thing, just like in Seinfeld, because concise is not my middle name.
But I will try. The blockchain is a public ledger, which tracks items, right? Whatever it may be. Just think of it as recording anything. It could be a payment, it could be a transaction, it could be a pointer to something, it could be anything. Yeah, it could be a contract, could be anything. Right. But the interesting thing is that it locks it at a point in time, and you can't really undo it, because it's a very clever concept. As opposed to just storing it in a database somewhere where there's, maybe an original image of that data, it takes that and it basically creates a very, what's the best way? A hash. Basically it has a very, very secure code associated with that, but that code is spread across a large number of other computers. So to really validate that that's the right piece of information, that code has to be in agreement and trusted by all these other little computers. And that's what this block of information is, right? So you've got this block, but the cool thing is you then take that other block and can extend it somewhere else onto maybe hundreds of computers. So what happens is you can't really hack it within the blockchain, because you would have to go to hundreds of places and work everything back, and everything's encrypted, so you couldn't possibly guess it, and it's just flat out
with different encryption key.
With different encryption key. And every single one has a different encryption key. So it's very, very...
And that encryption key is predicated on the previous...
That's right.
In the ledger. So that's why it's tamper-proof, because if you change something, then everything else is no longer true.
Resistant.
Right.
That's probably more
realistic.
The bottom, and then the interesting thing about the blockchain that I think it really became popular. That technology can be used for a lot of different things, and it's a lot of different applications that can go on it. But one of them is cryptocurrencies, and Bitcoin was the first kind of thing that brought the blockchain to the popularity, to the masses. Yeah. And the interesting thing about Bitcoin is, yes, you can't really alter it, but all of a sudden people start doing all sorts of extraneous things with this stuff, and yes, the value can go up, it can go down. All these little banks, and not really banks, but little repositories of Bitcoin would disappear, and nobody would know where it went. So it isn't really, the technology is very cool, but it doesn't solve everything. There's a whole ton of stuff that has to go on around it to make it reliable and to work.
I can add one fundamental point, and Stuart was just alluding to this a moment ago. The block is, when they say blockchain, it is what it claims to be, right? Yeah. Each block is a record, right? If you want to think about that as a cell in a spreadsheet.
Or a group of records, right?
Or a group of records, right?
Multiple records. Yeah.
But it's essentially, I sometimes think I'm okay at explaining this stuff because I'm an idiot, and if I can get it, I have to put it in terms that I can understand. And, I don't get how some of the tech behind the scenes works. But the block, the easiest way to think about it, if you don't know anything about this, is it's a cell in a spreadsheet. What's inside that cell could be a lot of different things, but for all purposes, it's a cell in a spreadsheet. And the chain part means it is chained to all of the cells that came before it and all of the cells that came after it. So it becomes... The technical term is immutable, which fancy way of saying really, really, really hard to change, because the spreadsheet won't add up right? If you try to forge what's in that cell, if you try to forge what's in that block, all the cells that lead up to it, that add up to that, won't come up with the same answer. And all the things that follow after it can't come up to the same answer.
Yep. And the longer the chain gets,
the more immutable it gets.
Right.
Yeah. And then that spreadsheet is basically shared with the entire world.
I don't think we need to go any further into this. So anything where you would want to distribute with trust and security. So right now, the obvious stuff is payments, currency, medical records, anything. Anything that you would that benefits from having a very secure distribution, and that the whole transaction is predicated on trust and trust alone. Blockchain represents a fundamental opportunity for massive disruption.
Exactly. So think about real estate, right? When you have to have a third party that on the monetary side and on the deed side, you have to have third parties that manage that trust piece, because you're not just going to certainly wouldn't trust Ed to buy property from him and assume that everything was above board, right? So you need an attorney or a bank or both. So this negates the need for that third party.
So now that we've laid that, let's talk about like the problem. And can we post the link, Lauren? Do you have it?
Yeah, I put it. Right now.
Let's talk about the problem with what I'll talk about what I saw as a problem here, and then we can talk about
the link right here, by the way,
the bigger problem. So one of the problems I have with this, and I was really trying to think about how to describe this problem, and I kind of liken it to anyone who gets upset about Trump going on Twitter and saying things. The reason they're upset is because he's the president of the United States. And there is no matter who that president is, there is a subsect of the population that will believe word for word whatever the president of the United States says, because he's the president of the United States. Okay. I wanted to start there because one of my big problems with this article is who it came from. And it came from Frank Wolf from HFTP. So there is an entire population of our industry that will look at the fact that this came from Frank Wolf at HFTP and will take it as just 100%. Yeah, it's gospel. So part of the reason I had a problem with this is because of who it came from, because Frank is in a position where there should be care in what he puts out in the world, because he is in a position of influence and power in our industry. And he has been involved in the history of our industry progressing. So he is seen by a large swath of the industry as a voice of the industry. So had this come out from Max at Hebs, I probably wouldn't have even given it a second thought. I would have been like, oh, Max is doing something in blockchain, so therefore he's putting out a point of view to stir the pot, because Max is he's a very skilled promoter, and he's not afraid to just come out and say, this is the truth, because this is what Hebs does now. But that's forgivable to a certain level. There's still a problem with vendors doing that, but it's forgivable to a certain extent, because Max is a successful businessman, not a person who's in a position that influences the entire industry. Secondly, I am getting sick and tired of the incorrect usage of disrupt in this industry. So I want to talk about the difference between disrupt and slight inconvenience, because for some reason, disrupt is used from everywhere from the correct usage of disrupt to slight inconvenience in this industry. And it's used the same way as if it's all the same. Disruption is what Uber did to taxis.
That's right.
Okay. It's
Amazon did to retail.
Yes, what Amazon did to retail.
Actually, and now you could argue that even Amazon hasn't made a big enough dent on retail quite.
No, until Walmart falls, Amazon has has changed the game, but hasn't disrupted it.
Yeah.
Right. That's right.
But Uber disrupted taxis. And so let's talk about what that means. So Uber, in very early and very quickly, fundamentally dropped the value of a taxi medallion. And they did that because they completely shifted something that consumers just accepted to something that consumers all of a sudden would no longer accept and wanted an alternative to. And they provided an alternative that broke everything for the taxi industry.
Right.
That they'll never recover. Medallions will never be worth again what they were worth 2 months before Uber existed.
Right.
Like, it will never recover. So that's disruption.
Right.
Okay. So let's now talk about slight inconvenience. So, iHotelier comes out with a new version of their web interface for their booking engine.
Right.
That's better at converting than Synixis. That is a slight inconvenience to Synixis. They did not disrupt them. Now,
right.
SiteMinder comes out with a version of Booking Button that invalidates the business model of iHotelier, Synixis, Windsurfer, Before Check-In, Fuel's booking engine, and they can no longer do business.
Right.
That's disruption.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So, now that we've laid out how I feel about that, now let's talk about what's wrong here. This industry is obsessed with taking shiny object that currently is being talked about and plugging it in as if we had like Mad Libs on our desk. So shiny object will disrupt OTAs and Airbnb. So
hold on, Ed, can you give us a noun?
VR.
Great. Can you give us a verb?
Exactly. VR, AR, rate parity, open key,
AI bots,
everything.
Yeah, right.
One of the
Social,
gazillion
Google
brands,
Glass.
Google Glass, anything shiny.
Right.
Like, I'm surprised autonomous driving hasn't come out. Will disrupt OTAs and Airbnb.
Wait, I have a blog post about
flying
that.
cars.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Uber's flying cars. Yeah.
So that's another thing that annoyed me about this. Now, as all of us have been in this industry long enough, let's talk about how technology normally gets adopted in this industry.
Right.
So something new that is very impactful to interaction with consumers. Who are usually the first ones to do it?
OTAs.
People with the big,
or
right?
not necessarily
Intermediaries.
OTA. Yeah, normally in
Intermediaries.
many cases it's a small startup, and they start doing some things, and they're very clever, and then they're normally if they're doing it well, and they see something, then the OTA acquires them.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Intermediaries. I think
Intermediaries. Because here's the thing.
Acquires them, yes.
The thing you're not replacing with any of these things is the desire that travelers have for a frictionless booking experience.
That's right.
And frictionless means different things to different sectors of travelers.
Exactly right. That's right.
So case in point, we still have travel agencies.
That's right.
Why do we still have travel agencies? Because there are people in this world that their version of frictionless is speaking to someone they trust who has been to areas.
Or for a very specific type of trip. If this is a very complicated trip. Today, this is a problem that digital has not solved for. Yep. I'm doing this massive trip. It's my once in a lifetime round the world, going to 20 different places, and my family's going to join me for part of it, not other part. Yeah. Travel agents are amazing
for leisure. Yeah, for leisure travel. In corporate, though, travel agents are huge. They're in-house corporate. These massive travel management companies, which support the entire GDS industry,
and they only exist because they offer a form of frictionless travel planning that others aren't offering.
They have a lot of rules.
Here, let me hand this off to you.
Right. And so that can't be disrupted.
I'm going to hand this off to you. Right.
It just cannot be disrupted by something that doesn't answer the primary reason for their existence.
Right.
That's right.
Right. And so there's that. Then let's just talk about this industry. We've all been in this industry long enough. A large amount of this industry still has not gotten PCI compliance under control.
Or mobile.
Or mobile.
Yeah.
Or HTML.
Or frankly, the web.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Or pricing their product.
Right.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
so
Somebody should make a system that makes that easier.
you know. So this is where I look at this, and you guys have heard me say multiple times that I think there are areas of futurism that this industry shouldn't even be talking about until they get their fundamentals right. Right? I got to tell you, blockchain, which would represent, like, listen, blockchain on the payment side, deposit side, the general ledger side, any of those sides of the industry, blockchain is going to be revolutionary, not disruptive.
Yeah.
Not disruptive, revolutionary.
Right.
But here's the thing. Blockchain.
Well, Ed, if I can
go
If
ahead.
I can go back for 1 second. You know, when we talk about disruption, I agree with everything you've said. People
Except
need to
one
remember
thing.
where-
Except the disruption.
Because normally it's Ed, I believe, with everything you said, except one thing.
Except that disruption thing is bullshit.
Yeah.
No. This people forget where this term came from, right? It came from the book The Innovator's Dilemma by Clayton Christensen. And he outlined, who was a Harvard Business School professor at the time he wrote the book, he outlined two types of innovations. It wasn't about technology, it was about innovations. There were disruptive innovations, which, as you said, Uber is disruptive to the taxi industry. It's a disruptive innovation.
Right.
And there were sustaining innovations. And there's a lot of innovation that actually makes the thing that we do today better. Blockchain for travel industry is a sustaining innovation, right? Because it can make things, you hit a great one. We have a huge problem with deposits today. A lot of properties have an enormous problem with deposits. Blockchain could be a sustaining innovation to the hospitality industry because it makes deposits work better for all parties except for the people who are trying to scam the system, right? So it's absolutely a sustaining innovation. If I'm a credit card company and I don't care about blockchain
You're
from
a fool.
payments perspective, et cetera, then maybe that's a disruptive innovation.
Yeah.
But disrupt happen across all industries equally. And yeah, so I just wanted to make that point of clarification that for the hospitality industry specifically, Airbnb is a disruptive innovation, right? Mm-hmm. Driverless cars, in theory, to some segment of the population could be a disruptive innovation because I don't have to stop. I can just sleep in the car while it's driving.
Absolutely.
So those are things that legitimately could be disruptive innovations. Blockchain for the hospitality industry ain't that.
Well,
sorry.
Blockchain
okay.
Make sure we were clear on that.
intermediaries. Like, let's talk the premise of this article again. Blockchain for intermediaries is definitely not disruptive.
It can help.
No,
it
actually helps
intermediaries in many ways, because especially when you get into smart contracting and things like that, all of a sudden you can start, all these things about rate parity and things like that. You start putting these into smart contracts that are enforced with rules, and you go, hey, guess what? They can't really go cheat. They could, but it's going to be outside of this agreed upon trusted system. So I think you start looking at things like the RFP process for group move, who's eligible for rates and who's not. You could go, wow, that could revolutionize how hotels work. But that's a big area with a lot of trust involved, with a very disparate, highly fragmented group and some legacy organizations who do not want that to change. They want to maintain the status quo, sort of thing. So my argument is that the ones who can lose on this, as I do many times, are the hotel brands. I mean, they're the ones who want to kind of, let's keep it the same old way.
Oh, yeah.
And on the payment side, I'll make one point referencing Neat, the single-use credit card, right?
Yep.
Using that for the virtual card.
That off the box. If he mentions Cornell and
yeah, that's right.
Four Seasons.
But hey,
Four Seasons.
who was the first one to use it? It was me. I wrote those business requirements for Neat.
Right.
That was not strategic. It was stupid. That thing was designed if we could settle something with anyone who could accept a MasterCard. And we figured none of the major hotel groups would use it because it added a couple points of cost to the stupid transaction, nonsensically. It's a business-to-business transaction amongst trusted trusted entities. So why would you do that? Well, the brands didn't want to spend the money because that was development cost and there was no revenue stream. So they forced the cost down to the property and the owners took it. It was insanity, right? But now that's a big revenue stream. All the GDSs are doing it, the intermediaries. It's a revenue stream just the same way as the GDSs are. The supplier pays a fee to an intermediary technology provider who revenue shares to buy market share with the demand side, right? Which is a model the airlines are trying to disrupt. Eventually, hotels will be able to maybe disrupt. But yeah, that's a cloud. Now, if you're WEX, you could use the blockchain to do that. But does
not
Expedia?
Alone.
No. But here's the problem.
No. I mean,
because Expedia is making revenue off of this on all their merchant transactions, right? And all sorts of. They do not want to change that. Because if they go to the blockchain, they go, hey, you know what? We can spend some development money. We can do this. This will be really secure. This will be great. And, our revenue stream disappears. Wait a second. No. And that's the same reason the OTAs still use the GDSs for air transactions. The airlines zeroed out commissions. So if they do a direct connect with American Airlines, they can spend a bunch of money and do that. But all of a sudden, Americans completely responsible for their revenue stream. That could maybe go away, and at least they're getting something from the GDS that Americans paying for, and that's the model. So there are lots of factors that have nothing to do with the technology. Technology could be great, could make it easier, better, faster, cheaper, better, but what blockchain is going to do is eliminate all these margins in many cases, right? You can make it really efficient. And guess what? Nobody wants to invest in that because there's not a lot of high margin profit. Where are the returns to go throw their money in, right? So
I get a feeling sometimes that our friends at HFTP confused. I think back to Ted Zhang from Derbysoft, and his mission is
every time Lauren makes a point, he
sees his
pause.
distribution.
Lauren, you have a terrible internet connection today. We're losing you badly.
You need more bandwidth. Maybe because because Lauren's running 6 video streams off of this.
He's got 6 Bitcoin miners going on his community.
Yeah. Am I back yet or no? Am I back?
You're back. Lauren, we're
Okay, so you were saying.
All right. Ted Zhang with Derbysoft. It reminds me that it seems like our friends at HFTP talked with him and changed from GDS, which is the current system we have, to Ted Zhang's vision of GDN, which is Global Distribution Network, which is the equitable distribution of all inventories to everybody for whatever they want to connect with. And somehow that got translated into blockchain, where it's like an undeniable way of getting direct inventory availability. And I think that's where the disconnect is, because this sounds very similar to what Ted has been envisioning for his distribution network idea, that it's a neutrality of space for everybody to put inventory in. That's where I think that how I kind of equated how HFTP reviewed their idea of blockchain.
Well, they just joined the dots in the article. There was no mention of that. So
there was no connection to any argument.
So could blockchain be part of the technology that powers the GDN? Sure, absolutely, that would make sense. But that wasn't the point that was being made.
But the blockchain has some huge challenges. Number one is mining these blocks, right? And this happened with Bitcoin. Wow, I'm going to go be a Bitcoin miner. All of a sudden they realized, the electricity that my computer is using exceeds the value of this Bitcoin that's being created. Now, again, a speculative market, things like that, yes, maybe it worked out really well, but when it was happening right then.
Right.
But again, it could have caved too. It's very risky. Cryptocurrency, very risky stuff. So that's number one, is you need to. The other thing is this whole propagation is not real time. You look at a group like Saber, it does 120,000 transactions a second. At blockchain, you're gonna get 80, I don't know, hundreds, not into the thousands. And to fully propagate out, it could take 10 minutes. Depending on the block, it could take 2 hours. Yeah. That's not good for real-time availability updates.
So Tim, I've got your next blog post. Quantum computing will disrupt OTAs and Airbnb.
No, Cyberdyne.
I've actually written that one already. I'll just post the URL right here.
Teleportation is the one.
Yes. Teleportation is the
Well, now see, let's be fair. Teleportation would be disruptive to the hospitality industry.
To entire sections of it, that's true.
Yeah. Well, not to mention religion as we know it, because you're basically destroying somebody and recreating them elsewhere. Where did the soul go? I mean, they turn into a religious aspect too.
That's right.
Well, there's a soul satellite.
Okay, who amongst us has a soul? No, okay. I rest my case.
One that we haven't sold yet, or one that we're still waiting to get buyback on?
That's true. Yes. You've given it to some. I want to share. I'm going to screen share for one moment on my my little Gartner thing here, which.
And now we all go poof. Oh, it keeps us up in this one.
Yeah, it puts us in little tile dogs.
Is that cool?
Oh, look at
Right.
Okay,
we can see it. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So this is
we can see it. Yeah.
This is Gartner. They're going to update it this month. Actually, they did a great little webinar this week on blockchain. They do very good work. But all of these little things. Okay. Very important to look at the key. The empty circles are less than 2 years. The light blue ones are 2 to 5 years. Dark blue, 5 to 10 years. Little triangles, more than 10 years. So where do we have the less than 2 years? Oh, we've got gaming tokens. And that's it. Sort of thing. Okay, so you start going through all these. Okay, Bitcoin is down here, but blockchain technology itself is way back here. And it is 5 to 10 years. Now, again, they may update it.
Right.
But you go through all of these different things, platforms. This is just the blockchain ecosystem of stuff, applications, and different things you can do with it. And there is quantum money. There you go. But anyway, you start looking at all of these things and you go, wow, that's a lot of stuff. It's not here. And a lot of these things will die off before it gets anywhere close to being developed and implemented.
That's a very cool chart.
Which goes back to,
well, that is the standard actually for Gartner. For people who aren't familiar with this, these are their general stages of innovation is triggered. Then you get these inflated expectations, right? Which is exactly where we are with the blockchain. This is why Frank wrote the article, right? We are approaching the peak of inflated expectations right there. Then it falls into the trough of disillusionment where you go, oh crap, this is harder than we thought. This is, it doesn't work. We can't figure out the business model. Then once you get through that, you start figuring things out in the slope of enlightenment. You go, oh, this works. And then it becomes productive.
What is complementary currency?
Oh, I think those are like virtual currencies, I believe, where you can make it
points that you can use later on.
Yeah, you can go right. I happen to be working with a group that is in that area that is using the blockchain to do some of this stuff. However, another major point I want to make, which Gartner has, that I think they said by 2018. So that's still by the end of next year, 85% of the companies who say that they are using the blockchain aren't. They have blockchain in their name because it's exciting and it's new and it's current and helps you get funding, but they aren't really using it. Like the company that I'm working with, yes, it's think of it as a cable ready or something, television or 3D ready. It could do it. and it's designed for it, which is really good, but it's not using it right now.
Well, and a lot of things completely self-destruct on their way to the trough of disillusionment.
Oh yeah,
I want to name that as, I got to use that name somewhere, to the pit of despair.
Oh,
or something.
This is my one slide. I just want to go back a little bit on disruption. This is what disruption looks like when the smartphone was born, right? So 2007 to 2016, this is only when you lose 2/3 of your business and you're a digital camera maker. That's disruptive. And the interesting one is 87% on MP3 players. That was Apple disrupting itself, basically killing the iPod, right? And that's a pretty bold, that is a bold move. Portable navigation systems down 80%, camera, all by one device.
Well, and all that's left in portable navigation systems are the rental car company. They're the only ones buying it. So, I mean, like a lot of this stuff has fallen to specialty. It's a specialty level of economy. One that also fits in here is watch manufacturers. Fine timepieces have been disrupted. Yeah, wasn't talked about a lot because it wasn't a huge market, but they're all hurting. No, they're all hurting. Go
pretty well. Look at really like on folks like that.
You're breaking up. You're breaking up. I think there's something.
I'm breaking up.
There's something cool going on with Webinar Jam that whenever any of you disagree with me, you break up. It's really amazing. At first, I just thought it was in my head because it's how it normally goes. But, go ahead. Tim. Are you there? Tim?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you see me?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm here.
And you broke up?
Wow.
Try not to make big movements.
The whole time.
Stand still and talk like this.
Oh. It has to be Webinar Jam because I'm pumping about 80 meg right now, and I'm not the host of it. As in it's got to be from Webinar Jam that they're having a bandwidth.
I think blockchain could disrupt Webinar Jam.
Blockchain disrupted Webinar Jam. That's what happened. Son of a gun. Yeah, and we lost Robert too. Robert hasn't come back, has he?
There's one thing, guys, we could have completely missed on this article, right? Which is the phenomena that we all hate but love at the same time, which is clickbait, right? This could have just been a way to get exposure for his content and HFTP. Because most people are just looking at a headline; they're not even reading the article. 75% of people don't even read the content, so they're just going to nod and smile and say, "Okay." It validates his position as a thought leader in the industry, and then they move on.
And here's the thing: I think Frank is about to get a really good lesson on. So, in marketing, don't just focus on positive KPIs. So I'm sure his tracking and analytics and sentiment are going to be like, wow, this article is the furthest it ever went. Most people talked about blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Negative KPI is what has it done to your credibility? What has it done to your organization? How does it make people feel? Which is harder to measure.
It is. And people are stuck on vanity metrics. And this would drive a lot of vanity metrics.
Yeah. Well, and that's what the guys like at Snapshot and stuff are doing too, right? They try to let's get a sensational headline, get it out on T News, or write something that stirs up the pot, and some of it's just to create controversy and to get into the middle of it.
The other thing that I think this article fundamentally missed was why the OTAs dominate, right? And we've talked about it on the email exchanges, but they're not. It's not because of the transaction piece with the money changing hands, which is where blockchain could revolutionize potentially, or even the inventory side is not why the OTAs dominate, because inventory is there. They outmarketed the hotels by spending a lot more money, and they created a much better product. Like when Ed was talking earlier about frictionless, the OTAs do a much better job, especially on mobile devices, when it comes to creating a frictionless transaction for average consumer. You can find what you want and book it more efficiently on an OTA than you can 99% of hotel websites out there. So
I'm going to take a more ominous perspective of why I think this is going. I'm going back to one of the points that Ed made, that for him to have been the person that put this forward seems to be a tremendous squandering of his reputation. Here's the thing. I think they went all in on. They sit around a table going, "Hey guys, we need to come up with something that's ahead of everybody else because HITEC's coming up, and we got to show that we're still in the front. So let's turn up the treadmill speed and keep running faster than everybody. What's out there that we can say is going to be down the road for everybody?" And they grabbed onto it. They grabbed a couple of keynotes, which some people walked away from thinking more confused than then they walked into it as to what it was. And so now they butt all in on blockchain as being the buzz thing. He backs it up by putting this BS article out that has no depth to it, and they're all slapping each other on the back.
Well, right. So part of the reason they did the article was to get interest in their task force that they're creating for what they call blockchain transactions, which they just coined that term. Blockchain by definition.
No, they are trying to call it BT.
Right.
Which, by the way, that's Bluetooth.
So they need to stop putting transactions after blockchain. Just call it blockchain. But they're trying to create this task force of people and just create a lot of awareness that they're interested in that. So maybe from that perspective, it could have worked.
And what they're interested in is having more global footprint, right? So they want to have, there's HITEC Europe and HITEC Middle East, HITEC Asia, that sort of thing. And they're getting closer. I mean, there's an announcement today that now Open Travel, who I've always been a supporter as part of it, back at the beginning, it hit a real nasty hiatus. It's coming back. It's got some good leadership. A guy who used to do golf courses who was Mike Tinkey, who I think will really do some great things for that organization. But now that conference is going to be co-located with the HFTP annual convention, right? Which is doesn't draw anywhere near what HITEC does. It's hundreds of people instead of thousands of people, sort of thing. But what Frank is trying to do is, he got HSMAI to co-locate the Revenue Optimization Conference with HITEC, right? So they're being very clever in terms of association management and development to kind of, how do you get more people to attend these conferences and to be more of a focal point? And I believe, HFTP is starting to get into the area where HTNG should be if a group in the hospitality industry is looking at blockchain, it should be HTNG, not HFTP, right? Because these guys are better at the really core standards work and the underlying technologies. They've got specific subject matter expertise in the people.
I think that goes to where these organizations begin to bump against each other. I mean, when you define territory, it's not defined territory anymore, and there's overlaps. I mean, we've seen certification programs coming out of just about everybody right now of, get this certification, get that certification. It's like, and where's the merit in the market for that, except for the fact that you monetize somebody's interest in getting an extra piece of paper to hopefully get a gig with, No,
for Open Travel, the hotel industry almost didn't participate because the American Hotel and Lodging Association was trying to take a set of standards that were getting developed in an open source collaborative way for the industry. They got involved with it and tried to turn it into a certification program, which again, they had no expertise, didn't know how to do it, no business model. And I mean, it took a war, and finally Nick Lanyon was actually the guy who wound up having to round up, because he had all these connections with senior leadership of the hotel group, to come in and say, stand down, give it to Open Travel, let's work with the industry and go, which then triggered all this development of all these XML based interfaces that have been the key to all these intermediaries rising. And the hotel chains doing their own websites and doing most everything we see happening now is mostly based on OTA specs.
Well, I kind of goes, and I'm not
Open Travel specs, I should say.
Yeah, I'm not to belittle organizations because they have merit and value, but I feel like there's a centric value of self-preservation rather than the purpose of the organization shift now. That more organizations are looking to preserve their real estate in the space than it is to actually provide the value of service that the organization was originally founded on as to the purpose of what they're trying to provide as content. Because if truly is, if just for a reason we think that maybe this whole content gen was nothing more than to pay attention to HFTP and HITEC, which I don't know if their numbers were down. You guys gave a sense that maybe the traffic was a little different this year.
Well,
you're saying they're up.
The total attendance apparently was up, but traffic on the exhibit floor and attendance at the educational sessions, my understanding, was lower.
But
right?
okay, but that goes back to the reasons why, Ed, you made a choice not to go up this year. Is like at the end of the day, it's all about the revenue. If you don't have the foot traffic coming to your
Right.
booth to gen new business, you can be told all these numbers. It's like analytics off your website. Hey, your traffic's up to the website. Yeah, but I'm not making any more money. At the end of the day, what am I bringing to the bank?
Well,
I'm not
here's
bringing
my
anything
question,
more.
and this is what we caught on to. Some of their numbers are padded by students.
Mhm.
I don't know if you guys picked up on that.
Yeah.
You know, and listen, we caught on last year that it was getting weaker. I think where they shot themselves, perhaps where they disrupted themselves, was moving HSMAI.
Absolutely.
Because it destroyed
Wednesday.
It destroyed Wednesday completely, and Thursday is never good.
Right.
Thursday was never good. Thursday was holy smokes.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
a good partner. You doing anything on Thursday? No, come by the booth. There'll be no one there. We have a couch. Let's hammer this out.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, Wednesday was always the big trade show day, because Tuesday there would be like education sessions and a lot of kind of heavy people going to the, all these super sessions and stuff like that. And yeah, those, just have kind of evaporated.
Wednesday was the money day.
Right.
Mhm.
And HSMAI now has pre-rock sessions on the Tuesday, and you always had the club managers conference was always on all these things that kind of pull away from that. So yeah, Wednesday you got all the marketing and revenue management related people all migrate over to rock and don't show up on the floor, and you can't, because it runs from 8 a.m. till 7 p.m.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's why we backed out. I've now talked to a couple other vendors who aren't going to do it again after this year.
Saber had a 10 by 20 booth in a corner.
That's amazing.
It was like an
That's amazing. They used to be major center key kind of booth.
Yeah.
But,
no, the big ones are all the the TV, the Samsungs, all the people with the TV, the PMS guys are still big.
You say the interest is dropping. I mean, I would say we are still committed, because we do pretty well picking up new business. We're still trying to establish the Fuel brand, but the vendor side, we're trying to interface with as many folks as possible. So that to me is where the real benefit is. We made a lot of good connections. That's where we met Flip2 last year. So I think for us, we're still staying. But when we went to pre-register for next year's show, even before this show, it's booked. I mean, there were very, very few slots open. So
yeah, because they're in a smaller footprint.
Well, that's true. But it was a lot of people are still committed to that.
Yeah, listen, it's always gonna be an interesting show, but I think it's starting to turn into a show that you can probably take a couple of years off from.
Maybe so, yeah,
and then come back.
Yeah,
because the other thing is there's just been a lot of good stuff come up. Like there's a lot of good other things that happen now, and I don't know. I struggle with it because I've done that show my entire entrepreneurial career. And have had years that I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars at that show, and could justify it. And each year, it's kind of transactionally just the audience has shifted on who's at that show. It tends to be, I think it was Lauren, I think you were the one kind of calling it out. It's more the junior people inside the orgs who are there for training. Like they're there to just learn about what's going on, which is fine. Like I like junior people. I was once a junior person, and most of my friends were once junior people in this industry. But the thing is like, that's fine. But if that's where it's going, they need to answer that in what they're charging, because dollar for dollar, there's a lot of other ways to reach these audiences that perform better.
Right. Yeah, and you can just register for the conference and then set meetings up for because again, I'm not.
Well, you got to be careful with that.
The lobby lizards.
Multiple vendors were served cease and desist orders, and if they were at all doing anything with vendors who were there legitimately, those vendors were threatened. With docking of points if they didn't kick the other vendor out. Which, by the way, gosh, that's a thin line. That's a thin line between protecting the show and the show's ability to do revenue, and then just completely burning or biting the hand that feeds you.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, you don't want the lobby lizard sort of thing who are just there meeting with everybody. But again, the senior people, I think, are generally pretty booked solid with meetings, and they aren't just wandering around the show floor to see what's up, walking up and down the aisles and having to go, hey, what's that? Let's have a chat, which back years ago was kind of how
that was the norm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you get the junior people are out there going, hey, what's going on? Feedback. Did you see anything interesting? And yeah, we had some meetings, and yeah, they go and do deals and stuff like that, and it gets done. But yeah. Different dynamic.
Yep.
I think if I go to HITEC next year, I'm going to create a new cottage industry business. Hire me for foot traffic, where I'll go live with a little GoPro tucked to my head, and you tell me where to go, and then in my ear, tell me the questions you want to ask, and I'll just wander the hallways, and people can tell me to step in and ask questions and make money that way.
I think you got the little iPad on that rolling stand, that little robotic.
I have one.
He has one.
I have one.
You do? Okay.
Yeah, we used it at World Travel Market. Yeah, but here's the thing, Lauren. You'll get to do it once, and then they'll sell it.
Right.
That's right. Yeah, because that had already happened, right? I mean,
right.
Oh well. Yeah. So much for great ideas.
So we've diverted a lot, but I like Frank. He's a nice guy. I've always liked him. Always been a supporter. I was just more disappointed at this than anything else, because someone's got to be disappointed at this. I mean, I don't know how else to put it, but if we want to rise as an industry, we can't be doing this. We just can't. We have to hold ourselves to a higher standard.
Well, the kill it with fire pitch has always been very compelling to the hotel industry, right? It's like, vilify the OTAs, and actually there was a T-News article this morning that came out. It was kind of the counterpoint of the OTAs talking about, or it was actually the TTRA, right, which is the trade association for the intermediaries, coming back going, hey, American Hotel and Lodging Association, you're kind of off base on this. Especially H&LA is now promoting all this fake website and scamming and all this stuff. And no, it basically comes down to that people don't realize that Hotels.com is owned by Expedia. Well, hey, guess what? People don't realize Curio is owned by Hilton either. So it's all the same. Yeah, it's all the same.
A couple of things that we didn't have it in the topic list, but one thing just to throw out that we didn't get a chance to talk to last week, and that was Hyatt and a couple of the articles that popped up last week about how it would be not suicidal, but might as well shoot yourself in the arm and call yourself one-legged kind of thing, where getting off the OTA would be a bad choice for especially the stockholders in Hyatt, because it was just a revenue drop. There's no benefit value for leveraging contracts or anything. I mean, I could pull up the article list, but I'm sure you guys already have a pretty clear picture of what you're thinking about it. Any feedback on some of that stuff?
There's another article that they just re-upped their deal with Booking.com early, apparently, supposedly to apply more pressure to Expedia to come to the table. I don't know. I would think this would get resolved. That Expedia wants to work with Hyatt. Hyatt wants the economics. I think the bottom line is Hyatt wants better economics. That's the complete bottom line of this. And how much is Expedia willing to bend? And it's not going to be a rational fight. It's going to be an emotional political fight, which I think Hyatt started, because they're the ones who apparently leaked the letter to the publications and things like that. So Hyatt's the one who's been stirring the pot and lighting the torches and sharpening the pitchforks.
Yeah, but that weakens that position. Leaking that information because they don't gain leverage from that, right?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Because now Expedia is not looking at it just from, okay, Hyatt's trying to negotiate a better deal, but now if they give in, if they acquiesce to Hyatt, they're going to have all these other smaller chains trying to do the same thing. So they actually emboldened Expedia, I think.
But here's the other thing too: like, we don't need to focus on Hyatt's size. I think what we should focus on is Hyatt's product. So, Choice doing this, that's a lot of available inventory, because that Choice is a lot of leisure business. But Hyatt, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but their big boxes are more dependent on group than 40%, they are on
40% group, 30% corporate. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So 70% of Hyatt's business is sucked up by non-Expedia business elements, right? Maybe it's 60% because Expedia is answering some of that stuff. So already Hyatt's pretty small, but then you remove a lot of that inventory that's just not available for Expedia to sell anyways. Like, I wonder if anyone ran the math on like how many rooms are we really threatening Expedia with?
Yeah.
And then
Expedia knows that. They know exactly.
No, I meant at Hyatt.
Yeah, at Hyatt, I don't know. Yeah, hard to. I'm sure they ran some numbers and figured this. Yeah, figured out what they want, or they probably looked at, hey, if we can get a couple points off, or they probably know from inside the industry what Hilton and Marriott are paying. They're going, we're paying more than that. We want to get down to their level, which
but they're not. Again, they're not Hilton or Marriott, though.
Right, and they aren't generating that kind of
quite honestly, they're not Wyndham. They're not Choice.
Right. Well, but Choice has more product that's covered by Best Western, Wyndham, all that sort of stuff. It's more replaced. Hyatt does have a lot of center city, larger property. They have a good attractive. Hyatt places are great. Hyatt centric.
I'm not talking
a really good.
I like Hyatt's product.
It's a good product that Expedia wants on the shelf, and consumers like it. The big question for me is, can Expedia replace, again, because people who love Hyatt and go to Hyatt are going to stick with Hyatt. That's never the issue. It's all the people who don't care, who are looking for a Hyatt type product. Can Expedia replace that with either independent hotels or Autograph or, Hilton's or Marriott or anybody, and just shift that? And that's number one. And number two, can Hyatt replace that business more cost effectively than getting it through the OTAs? And so on both of those is probably, I think the OTAs can replace the vast majority, not 100% of it, but 3/4 of it, 80% of it. I don't know. And Hyatt, I don't think can go replace that traffic.
Wait a minute. As you're talking about this, maybe we're overthinking Hyatt's position on this. It sounds like the Marsha syndrome. I mean, how often has Hyatt been in the news? It hasn't, for pretty much nothing. Maybe this is their way of stomping their feet and going, it's always Marsha, Marsha. And maybe it's their way of, because I don't know whether they have it, to your point, Stuart, they leaked out the news about this going on. It's no benefit politically for them on the leverage point of view. The dollar values are probably not as consequential in regardless of it. And then they get to announce how they've made a happy deal with Expedia, which might have been the exact same deal they walked in the door with, but they got a little headline action going on for a couple of months where people are thinking, well, what's going on with Hyatt? You know what I mean? Hey, Mr. Tim.
Yeah.
Try talking, Tim.
Guys, how are you?
Hey, look, your mouth is matched up with your audio now.
Sorry for the technical issues. I have no idea. Yeah, you're looking good.
Oh, no, I know exactly what the problem is. I have a daughter home from college who's watching YouTube videos on her laptop and on her phone simultaneously.
Netflix, yeah.
That's going to be a killer.
Some would say you've been disrupted.
Yeah, some would say you've been disrupted. Yeah. Hey, Robert, you threw in an article that we had a week ago about Saber's data breach, and now you, of course, rolled it into, ready for the bingo cards, 4 Seasons.
And Trump collection. Yeah. This is a great example
to get the biggest bang.
Yeah. This is the downside of Amazon gets slapped on this for the cloud too. You start relying on a third party to go, be the core of your technology, and if they have an issue, you wind up holding the bag. So Saber had a pretty nasty data breach, which apparently, I don't know, I bet it impacted all their clients. If they're,
it did not impact all their clients.
Oh, maybe not Wyndham.
Right. Anybody who's on the community model was not impacted. Anybody who was on the hosted version.
Right.
May have been. I can't say they were.
I would say based on the list of hotel companies that were all on the hosted version, that it's probably all of them. They just, I I would question how one would be excluded necessarily.
And you'd be happy with this. We just finished a Digital Marketing Council call for HSMAI, and of course the round the table discussion was, what are people from the hotel ownership or group sides looking for going into 2018? And it kind of lends itself to our early block and chain conversation as well. It was almost like everyone was trying to say that they're being innovative and thinking of AI bots.
Lauren?
Yeah.
Blockchain.
Blockchain.
I say block and chain. I've always said block and chain, so I'm always stopped.
It's not the...
But it's not block and chain.
I always say block and chain. I've always said block and chain.
It's not
But
on
you need
the
to
line.
change that.
It's online. Sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
It's on the line. There's a little line, and everybody's on the line. It's on the line. I always say block and chain. I've said block and chain since it first came up when they were doing Bitcoin, but that's
because it's
I haven't learned to
Say blockchain.
Yeah, well, block and chain, because you're creating blocks that go into a chain. But anyway, all right, blockchain. But the whole thing is that people kept trying to say what else they were doing innovative-wise, and I was waiting for somebody just to stand up and say, we're not messing with any of that stuff. We're going to get good about what we're doing. We're going to. Nobody
tell
did
me
that.
someone did. No one did?
No. Everybody started talking about AI bots and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this comes to a point I wanted to make before when we were talking about blockchain and my internet was, taking a dump, which is gotta stop. Well, I am a professional speaker, as you pointed out. No, we've got to stop looking for like the silver bullets. We got to stop looking for the magic fairy dust that will sprinkle on this business, and suddenly, wow, Expedia won't be a problem, or Airbnb won't be a problem. Hey, here's an idea. How about we take care of our guests? How about we maintain rate parity? How about we distribute through channels that actually benefit us and help us reach guests we can't reach? How about we tell a really good story about our destination, by extension, a really good story about our product or property? How about we actually build a really useful customer database so we can market to people who are actually interested in hearing from us?
That's so boring.
I know it's crazy.
But how can we have committees that vendors will spend money to let us have if we only talk about all the things that are really not that hard to solve? They're just not solved because we ignore them. I mean, come on, Tim.
And I mean,
we wouldn't have to show.
And don't get me wrong. I mean, but we have to differentiate between things that are trends and things that are, shiny. Mobile isn't a trend. Mobile is a way our customers interact with us. So,
but this industry's always gotten a great experience. This industry's always gotten wrong.
Well, I had a great experience
versus what's going to stay.
Right.
Selling travel online.
No, I had a crazy
that's
experience.
a trend. Sorry, Tim.
I was down at the Swan and Dolphin last week. No problem. That's okay. I was down at the Swan and Dolphin. We seem to be running, by the way. This is probably still my internet, but we're running on like a 3-second lag between when I'm saying things and getting out to the world. But
just for you.
But nonetheless, I was at the Swan and Dolphin. This is classic. I'm building this into a slide for a talk I'm giving in August and a talk I'm giving in September. And literally, I got an email on checkout day saying, text your name and room number to this phone number, and you'll automatically be checked out. And I was like, this is fantastic. Mm-hmm. So that's what I did. And I got a text back, literally a second later, that said, this is a landline that does not receive texts. But if you'd like to send a voice message, it will cost you 25 cents. And I'm just like, you had one job. You had a job. Literally.
Oh, my God.
Like, what the hell?
What the hell?
No silver bullets. No fairy dust. Just do your damn job.
Or perhaps test it before you release it. Maybe just that.
No, but when you but here's the thing, Robert, you're making it really inconvenient for these companies to justify the things they do. If they have to
down the deployment.
They have to include the cost of testing and upkeep in their project pitch, then they're never going to be able to build things for themselves. They're always going to have to buy stuff. Right. Like, come on, Robert.
Another positive that you would have liked to add was we started getting on the tangent. We did talk about blockchain.
Well done. Very nicely done.
Thank you so much. I'm trying to learn educationally. But the fun part was we started talking about direct channel intermediaries, not intermediaries, but direct channel programs like TripTease and so forth. Stay Wonderful, who won the HITEC Innovation Award this year. I'm sure you appreciate that aspect. But anyway, I brought up, and Robert's my witness, the security issues associated with that the allowable tracking, as you and I have discussed, we all discussed on sidebar email strings, is prevalent, that they literally have access to all of your information. And here we see in the news yet again, Saber, which is a incredibly reputable, incredibly large, incredibly well-organized company, get breached. So these little companies, right, which they are, if you are giving them full access to your data stream in your booking funnel, you can be drum tight on your security protocol, but you are wide open to theirs. And and it actually, I think it resonated with the people that were on the call, that is a thing to be worried about. And then I started talking about mutations on Google Analytics tracking, and we lost about 80% of them. But I did have some emails come back from people like Hebs.
Can you look at ours?
Yeah, they were like, "What do you mean? Donde este mutation?" Right. But it was kind of interesting that as they were talking about all this AI bots and innovations and all this other stuff, it's like you're so eager to grab this stuff because it makes you look different than somebody else who isn't. But you're not really, to your point, Tim, taking care of the things that need to be taken care of first. It's like putting paint on a falling down dilapidated house. Yeah, it looks better, but it's still a shitty house. You know, you got to build a nice house first.
Here's an idea: you want to be different, do everything well.
Yeah.
Not even the best. Like, take the Honda approach. Be number 2 at everything, and overall, you'll be number 1.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Very true.
Yeah,
very
I mean,
true.
because here's the thing. Like, when we want to talk about addressable issues, like, and it's funny, like, I'm really turning sour on certain players in this industry just because, like, gosh, they're lucky. They're just lucky to be at the scale they're at. That's the only thing keeping them at the scale they're at, because they shoot themselves in the foot. Yeah, they shoot themselves in the foot on all, like, the easily addressable things. Like, I don't know, email, transactional email. Let's go even easier. Like, that's really not hard to get right. But if you get it right, like, it's really good for you. But, you know, we have to remind ourselves, there's no benefit for a large brand to master this stuff, because, and it's funny, Holly made me think of this because she actually called one of the brands about the blockchain thing to get what they thought about it and got kind of a weird response. And I said to her, Holly, you have to remember, the brands, everything they do is the minimum amount they need to do to sell more franchises. Mm-hmm. Like, so they can't spend more than what they can justify. I'm not saying all brands, but let's just use the, like, if you're going to try to tie everything together.
No, sure.
A brand cannot justify spending the amount of money Expedia spends on data scientists and analysis of consumer journeys to fine-tune their process, because it doesn't sell more franchise licenses. It doesn't get you more franchise agreements. They can't justify putting in an email infrastructure because they only need to sell a certain amount of rooms. They only need to fulfill a certain amount of demand to be able to sell franchises. And then there's a margin of which that if they overshoot the spend, the profitability on the franchise growth goes down, and it's actually a bad thing. So it's growth with a shrinking margin. And you have to remember that now that they don't own real estate, like, their goal is to sell franchise and do what it takes to sell franchise.
Right.
Yeah. Well, whatever way to add
this
rooms.
Is what I will push back from the standpoint of right. No, I was going to say, the one thing I would push back on, and you know, I'm not pro-brand or anti-brand. I think occasionally some brands, and I'm not picking anybody that I own stock in by any stretch or my wife works for by any stretch. I'm saying there are brands that I think sometimes take a somewhat longer view and try to figure out, okay, let's in the long run do exactly what you said, right? Like, do we have to do some of these things to remain competitive with the marketplace? So I'm probably nuance that just a, but generally speaking, I agree, is about, are we providing a good service to our customer? And our customer is the franchisee, because that's how we're going to go.
Absolutely. Not the traveler.
Not the traveler. Right.
Now, the hotel owner, some hotel owners see their customer as the traveler, and are maybe mistakenly thinking that the flag they're flying sees that same exact point of view.
That's right.
But we all need to understand that a flag only makes money off of a traveler if they have a franchise, because they don't own their own hotels anymore. Right. So that's gone.
Right.
And so
I think that will be the death of those brands over time. Realistically, the brands that are losing, they're losing because they struggle to provide a value, because they need to provide a value to the hotel owner. If they're not investing in what's going to do right by those hotel owners for the long term, they're setting themselves up for some real trouble.
Well, and where a lot of them have been caught up over the years is falling into the trap of giving the hotel owners what they want, not what they need.
Right. It's a lot easier to do that, because you don't have owners getting pissed off and leaving and saying, they don't want to hear the bad. They just want, hey, the fees are staying the same and not going up, and you're doing this, and let's just keep what we have. And that's why I think you start looking at the power of the OTAs. The OTAs, first off, have a big advantage. They have a much lower cost of capital, right? I mean, it's a huge advantage. The human cost of human capital, outrageously lower, and very focused on just one part of the process, basically, which is this whole nurturing of customers, converting to booking. Now, again, they're getting a little bit more experimenting into, during stay and things like that, but that's all to encourage that customer life cycle, where the number of hotels who talk about the customer life cycle, I mean, the HSMAI Rock conference, I didn't hear it brought up.
Hey, Lauren, if you want to have fun at your next marketing council meeting, ask how many of the people in the room know what they see as the customer lifetime value of an opted-in opted-in. Just ask if any of them can answer it, because I guarantee you Expedia can.
Oh, of course. Of course. And actually, the next one is going to be in September at the retreat. Robert and I will be in Washington, D.C.
We need to remember to do that.
We will ask them, yes, because, again, it seemed like, and I'm not being negative to the participants in the group, that when that question got posed, it was when one made an answer, the next answer had to be better than the first answer, that had to be better than the second answer, that had to be better than the third answer, because it was like we had to show that we were just as forefront as the other people on the phone. That they can't be nobody. I was really hoping that one of them would have gone over and said, "Hey, you know what? That's all great stuff, but it's unproven, and it's great that you guys are doing it. Please let us know how it works out, because we're hammering on quality websites that create good guest experience exchange, that create good conversion for us. And when you guys figure out that AI bot stuff, please let us know, because we'll be happy to do it." It wasn't. It was.
Hey. We're investing a tiny bit. It's one of the experiments we're testing this year.
Well, and the one who said that was Expedia, who basically not to talk out of turn, but said they're working on these skills for
Alexa,
Alexa, and things like that, and Google Home, which makes all the sense in the world, because they've got hundreds of thousands of hotels, and you just have to add. Again, you're going to have, if Hyatt has a skill that needs to be different from Expedia's, you got to phrase that question a little differently, which people are not going to do. And let me tell you, Expedia is going to figure out, here's how the question is asked. Here's what we need to say. This is easiest. We get 70% of the people talking to it, and it comes to us because of either what we paid Google or Amazon or whatever, but we're the ones in the fast lane. Right?
And so this is again, I'm going to just bring this back to, it's the same exact problem I talk about that hotel owners have, which it's the identity crisis.
Right.
So why does Expedia and Booking.com dominate where they dominate? Because they do not have an identity crisis. They know who they are. They know what they're there to do, and they execute.
Right.
And they know that what they do is difficult, and they test
Right.
like crazy and figure out the results and try to, as much as they can, to be data driven and go,
Yep.
wow.
Yep.
But here's the thing.
Not just we got this result, charge after it and run, but then figure out, why did that happen? Let's keep testing it to make sure that our thesis is right, to keep going. Oh, wow. Oh, we didn't realize that. And yeah.
Right.
But here's the other thing, that through the years of holding true to that, because they always have, that's why they've remained, right, is they have been the most focused. They've created gravity. And that gravity pulls in the best talent that comes into this industry.
Yep.
Like, because listen, if I'm a top front-end engineer who right now, they can pretty much define how much they get paid. Yeah. And I'm given the choice between one of the top hotel brands in the world and Expedia. I'm going to pick Expedia.
Right.
Because Expedia is focused. And I know that I will get to go to Expedia and I will get to execute on my purpose at Expedia.
Right.
But I don't know that about the brand, because I don't know if this is just a temporary focus.
And we have
and the platform
for that to justify.
But if you're a front-end developer and you're going, and I love Marriott, they do some great stuff. But if you go in and say, I want to go accomplish this, you start looking at the underlying technology that's in there. It's hard.
The sins of the past.
Right. So let's say you're a front-end developer and the big thing that they're pitching is, we are going to go after family business. And you go, good. Well, obviously, let's sell people. Let's confirm connecting rooms. I mean, Marsha can't do that.
Right. By the way,
it's impossible.
I predict that if this IHG Amadeus deployment goes well, I guarantee you Marriott is off Marsha within 5 years.
Yep.
But interesting development. Not to be a conspiracy theorist.
I mean, realistically, get small.
Jeff Edwards, who's head of their hospitality group, just left. I don't know what that means.
No, he's been gone a while.
He
didn't just leave. He's been gone.
Oh yeah. Maybe he just turned up
a while, I think.
Oh, has he? I don't know.
I think he probably. I'm going to go out on a limb here. I saw his status changed on LinkedIn. Yeah. I suspect Jeff used to be my boss, by the way. I know Jeff really well. I strongly suspect, like, his earnout or his non-compete or something expired.
Oh, okay.
I think that's the case.
That sounds accurate.
Yeah. So he's been gone for a while.
But who replaced him?
But I knew this at one point. I don't remember. I don't know. I happen to know somebody who might know. But I don't know.
I don't remember. And again, I haven't followed it that closely, but I don't recall seeing an announcement on somebody replacing him.
To back up what you said, Ed, I agree with you that the person should go over to Expedia, because we have a good history of brands that have abandoned after being dedicated to a concept that either they lost the head of the snake for, or the company just shifted politically or internally interest, and they wholesale purged massive departments of people that were, the latest, greatest thing that they were doing. And I think of Hilton's efforts on localization and so forth, where they purged hundreds of people onto the street because, well, you know what, the climate changed, the interest was changed, and abandoned it after spending so much on the project. So all the brands have had their own flavor of that kind of shift and change in chasing that shiny object that didn't result, or the politics and the winds of change hit them and they abandoned it. So yeah, Expedia, to your point, is focused. We're out there to generate our portion of value and revenue into the market, period. Whatever it takes to do it is done, So yeah, I definitely see that possibility.
Right.
There was one other, lending itself to an earlier article that we had, and I threw it in. It was the eyefortravel article. Excuse me. Which was the should everything ride in the carousel, which was Google's engagement with the EU decision. There's been some discussions about it now as to what does that translate to, because obviously what actually happened for the Hotel Finder is the same thing as Flight Finder and everything else. So does that mean that Google's going to resign itself to being just the carousel at that point and everything goes organic below it? Excuse me.
No.
No, yeah, I agree with you on that. But to the point is, the article did point out some good stuff about how consumers might be the final dictate to this, that regardless of the known biasness, it's still a better product. So leave it as it may be, they're still going to want to use what is there in the way that it's being developed.
Yeah, but the problem is that right now the EU is trying to get their thumb in what the can actually be, and Google cannot afford to, because the Google on this one is that the way that the EU has defined the market is that there is a horizontal market for general internet search, and there's vertical markets for additional searches.
Product,
right?
yeah,
Unless
like
you're
product
search.
Yes.
For product searches. Okay. All right. Here's the problem. They have said that Google has a monopoly in general internet search, the horizontal side.
Right.
The way monopoly law works is there is no crime for being a monopoly, right? That's not illegal.
Right.
There is a crime if you use that monopoly to impact either your existing market or other markets.
Mm-hmm.
And so what they've said is that they illegally used their monopoly, their legally gained monopoly horizontal search, illegally influence vertical search. And that has enormous impacts for the way that Google works. Oh, yeah. Yeah, this ruling is a nightmare from Google's perspective. Now, they only applied it to one vertical in that specific ruling. But but what they said was general internet search is one thing, and product search, vertical search, is a different thing entirely and a separate market. And so the customer can't say, we want Google to do this thing, if the EU is saying that thing that the customers want us to do is illegal. So Google still needs to push back on this hard. I don't know where it's going to end up, because I'm not making predictions on where the legal side of this ends up, but Google got screwed hard in this ruling, and they've got to fight this one to the death.
And honestly, they need to rally their business. They need to rally others to take part in this, because if this gets put into case law, this has impact on a lot of things. This has impact on newsfeed algorithms. Right, newsfeed algorithms. But then go down to the next tier. Go down to the next tier, because let's not allow the giant scale of Facebook and Google to let us forget that if you even remove them from the market's still gigantic on what they're not getting.
And the problem with that theory is the folks who actually are responsible for a lot of this legal stuff coming to pass, driven heavily by a group called fairsearch.org. Mm-hmm. And fairsearch.org was founded by Kayak and Expedia, and then Microsoft got on board in a big way. So the next layer down is like, we're not the monopoly. We're not bound by those same rules, so we don't care. So the only player who really has skin in this game on Google's side is Facebook.
Yeah.
And and at the risk of, I'm going to take Amazon. I'm going to take a position, maybe, but less. It's a much tougher case to prove. I'm going to take a position on this that I don't necessarily agree with, just to make the point. But if you're the government, right? You're the EU, right? And you've said these guys are bad guys, and the only people who are willing to stand up alongside them and say this is a bad ruling is somebody else who you already also think is a bad guy. That's not going to be a compelling argument overly much.
Well, no, but here's what I was going to say.
And
is all Google, and I do think they are at this scale, and honestly, I think Facebook is at this scale, and I think the governments misunderstand the level of monopoly that exists here. Is all Google has to do is suck it up and go dark for a month. Not allow any of the EU to access Google, and make them go access the other guys. And let's see what the voters think about that. Because I'm willing to bet you if they would nut up and lose the $1 trillion or whatever it is that they're going to lose, that they can suck up to not lose this battle and just go dark to the EU. Because all the businesses inside the EU that are also affected by Google going dark in the EU because they're not advertising on these super niche, still probably $100 million a year companies.
Right.
Like it has an impact, and I don't think the governments understand this, that if Google wanted to tip that hat, because eventually they'll have to, they'll be forced to tip that hat to point out that, oh, by the way, we serve the consumer more so than you do, government, to the point where the consumer doesn't know how to not be served by us. Proof.
So it's funny that you say this. Because there is a real world analog here. So in December of 2016, law, a new copyright law in Spain, and Google News was in violation of the copyright law. And so Google turned off Google News in Spain. You cannot get Google News in Spain right now, today. Okay? And I'm looking for the thing right now. Oh, I said 15. I'm sorry. 2014. Okay? So now all the publishers in Spain are basically have taken a huge hit. Can Google come back? So, but it's taken.
It's taken.
But I want to be fair.
That's news.
2.5 years.
But that's news, and that disrupted publishers. When you talk about taking out search,
I agree with you completely. I'm saying your point would work in practice. The question, because that's exactly what's happening in Spain right now, where the publishers are begging for Google to come back and them to change the copyright law so that Google News is... By the way, the copyright law was changed because the publishers pushed for it. And now they're going, oh, that was a huge mistake. My bad. Come on back, Google. All is forgiven. But they have to change the law still. The challenge is, can Google afford? I have no idea what they make in Europe in a month. But it would definitely be material. Like, if they could afford to pull out the way they, pulling news out of Spain was one thing, but the continent is another matter entirely. Yeah. So who knows? But your premise is spot on, because that's exactly what's happening in Spain right now.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, it took a while, but that was news. Right. And they hadn't completely disrupted the consumer's behavior on news yet. Right. There's still multiple approaches to news. However, on search, when is the last time you looked for something willingly not on Google? Like, so not when a device tricked you to use someone else's search. When's the last time you were like, oh, I need to know something? What did you type?
Bing.
You typed Google. Bing. I said Bing not when your device forces you.
It's fewer characters to type. I find that it's just, versus the extra characters in typing Google.
I see, we're the wrong audience to ask this, because for some of the work we do, we use things like DuckDuckGo or the like, just because we're trying to not have any of our tracking stuff give us results that we wouldn't want. But you're absolutely right.
Your sister. Like,
exactly.
Hey,
I need to run. I am late for a call.
Actually, I need to run too, gentlemen. Have a great weekend. I'm sorry, I just lost track of time. And St.Onge Flip too.
Okay, thank you. I'll have to ask you about